Hello everyone. Today in our lecture we'll be focusing on planning criteria and the objectives of recreation facilities. Recreation, which is an essential part of human life and finds many different forms which are shaped naturally not only by the individual interests but also by the surrounding social construction. They may be communal or solitary, active or passive, outdoors or indoors, healthy or harmful, and useful to the society or detrimental. Recreation related business today is a huge business and forms a huge part of the economy. Tourism industries have recognized that many visitors are specifically attracted by recreational offerings. Recreation planning is the application of analytical tools to the systematic and deliberate process of decision making about the future management of recreation opportunities. Recreation planning is a rational, systematic decision-making process, and as such, it is a fundamental tool that deters our human tendencies to make decisions based on predisposition, bias, inadequate analysis, groupthink, insular perspective, resistance to change, and excessive self-confidence. It results in decisions that are more effective, efficient, fair, reasoned, and defensible. Recreation planning may also be referred to as organized recreation. In recreational planning or organized recreation, many recreational activities are organized, typically by public institutions, voluntary group work agencies, private groups supported by membership fees, and commercial enterprises. Further, let us discuss the planning criteria for recreation. If we look at the dictionary meaning of the term criteria, it is clear that the criteria is a principle or standard by which recreation planning must be judged or decided, or a defining characteristic of something, and in this case the standard for recreation. Different experts in the field may have their list of criteria for planning of recreation, also known as recreation resource planning. The headings may differ in different books, however the essence derived from all would be the same. Without any further delay, we will discuss the important planning criteria that should be considered while planning a recreation program. First is a process. While the specific terms and steps in a recreation planning process often vary across institutions, all recreation resource planning in some manner includes, firstly, identification of public issues, management concerns, opportunities, and threats through collaborative stakeholder involvement. Second, establishment of planning and decision criteria for evaluating and selecting the preferred alternative. Thirdly, inventory of resources, the current situation, and the best available science and information. Next, the formulation of alternatives which address the significant issues and concerns. Next would be the evaluation of the consequences, benefits, and the effects of each proposed alternative. Next, the selection of a preferred alternative based upon a full and reasoned analysis. Next would be implementation and monitoring, plan adaptation or revision. Next criteria would be the legally sufficient. Recreation resource planning is framed by various local, state, and federal laws and regulations, with the most significant and historic direction provided by the National Environmental Policy Act 1969 and its attendant Council on Environmental Quality Regulations. Third criteria for planning is the judicial doctrine. Good recreation planning is based upon the important judicial principles of being principled, reasoned, reasonable, sufficient, full, fair, and preponderance. the fact of being greater in importance of the information. Next planning criteria is the planning considerations. An adequate recreation resource planning process and plan must address all of the significant public issues, management concerns, opportunities and threats that are identified in the early stages of the planning process. Issues, concerns, opportunities and threats that are not deemed significant do not need to be addressed in the plan. Fifth criteria would be planning inputs. Recreation resource planning requires the consideration of many inputs such as an inventory of existing plans and policies, current type and amount of recreation use, that is supply and demand, recreation trends, public issues, management concerns, regional supply of recreational opportunities, visitors and stakeholder preferences, economic impact of recreation participation, best available science, environmental conditions, and available information from recreation and resource monitoring. Another criteria that needs to be considered is recreation resource publics. Recreation resource planning must try to engage and hear from all the diverse publics who value the recreation resource. The easily recognizable publics are often labeled visitors, local business, landowners, and communities, but there may also be equally important publics who vicariously, that is experienced through the feelings or action of other person, value the resource. Some who have been displaced by past unacceptable conditions, some who do not have the ability to attend meetings, or some who live across the country but equally share in the ownership of the public resource. Next criteria would be collaboration. The meaningful engagement and exchange with the public is essential throughout the planning process. Collaboration results in a clearer definition of public values, more creative alternatives, more reasoned and reasonable decisions, and a constituency that becomes better informed and committed to the plan and its implementation. Next criteria would be science-informed planning. It is both a legal requirement and a professional imperative that is of vital importance to duly consider the best available science and expertise in the planning process and the plan's implementation. Another criteria which is also important is the comprehensive and integrated way. Recreation planning should consider other significant natural and cultural resources, users' demands and values in an integrated and comprehensive fashion. Functional planning, whereby one resource is planned for in a vacuum from another resource, is not appropriate and contrary to comprehensive and integrated planning. Next is a clear management alternatives. Recreation alternatives must be clear, comprehensive, and provide a reasonable range of choices for public consideration. Each alternative can be contrasted by its proposed objectives, desired futures condition, desired recreation experience, facilities, management strategies and actions, quality standards, visitor capacities, economic value, projected budget requirements, and monitoring program. Another point is rigorous analysis. The analytical stage in the planning process is the evaluation of alternatives, whereby the alternatives should be sharply contrasted and the pros and cons are rigorously evaluated, so the reason for and against each alternative becomes clearer. Next, we will be discussing on the objectives of recreation facilities. There are a wide variety of recreation facilities that are in the market, and a lot more keep coming up each day with the technological advancements. The Americans with Disabilities Act ADA and the Architectural Barriers Act ABA contain provisions for various types of recreational facilities, including amusement rides, recreational boating facilities, exercise machines and equipment, fishing piers and platforms, golf facilities, miniature golf facilities, play areas, swimming pools, wading pools and spas, shooting facilities, and firing positions. The main objective of every community recreation facility should be to provide equality of opportunity for all. This democratic principle applies particularly in the field of recreation. Neighborhood areas, not only for a few, should have adequate playground facilities, and programs should be sufficiently broad and well distributed to enable all the people to be served. Secondly, to serve all age and provide opportunities and facilities without any age distinction. Thirdly, to provide equally for all genders. Everyone is entitled to equal opportunities in the recreation program. Fourth is to provide opportunities for co-recreation. Many activities can be enjoyed fully when engaged in together irrespective of age or gender. Fifth would be to encourage family recreation. Many forms of recreation tend to divide or separate the family. Opportunities should be provided for the family to play together, either as a separate unit or with other family groups in the home and outside areas and facilities. Next would be to provide a wide range of choice in different types of activities. The program should not be devoted primarily to a single type or activity, but it should include games and sports, drama, music, social recreation, etc. Next is to include relaxing as well as active form of recreation. There are times when people do not desire strenuous activities. Some people find their greatest satisfaction in quiet or passive recreation. To offer possibilities for varying degrees of skill and ability, measures of success is necessary if the activity is to afford satisfaction and contribute to the individual's personality development. Another objective of community recreation facility should be to provide activities of a progressive nature. Very few people keep a long continuing interest in activities unless they afford challenging goals of objectives. Organization of music, drama, craft, etc. Next would be to carry over the leisure time skills and interests developed in schools. The recreation program should make it possible and easy for young people who in school played on athletic teams or taken part in other extracurricular activities to join groups in which their interests and abilities may continue to find a satisfactory expression. Another point would be to include activities that will persist in adult life, that they should have an important part in community recreation program. Another point that a community recreation program should consider is that to continue throughout the years. People need recreation 12 months of the year, and a responsibility rests upon the city to provide a year-round program. Activities are specially needed during seasons when other recreation opportunities are limited. Next point would be to provide activities for different periods of free time. Noon hours after school periods, weeks and holidays, the twilight hours, recess periods, vacation, all afford opportunities for recreation. Next, to represent cooperative planning. This is exceedingly important if recreation functions in democratic setting. Program participants and the public should share with the professional bodies in developing the programs. Next is to encourage individuals and groups to provide their own activities. The recreation program should encourage people to take initiatives in developing their own program ideas, stimulating interest and developing self-leadership and the group to which they belong. Next important criteria is to be related to other local programs. Cooperative planning with other organizations providing recreation assures maximum use of the availability and enriches the total opportunities in the community. Next is to furnish outlets for satisfying group activities. Through recreation programs, people should have the opportunities to achieve a sense of belonging, to develop social qualities or experience, and the fellowship which results from participating membership in a group. Next is to recognize the different tastes and interests of the individuals. Group activity is the need and personal development of the individual should receive primary consideration. To provide outlets for creative expression, although it is important that large numbers of people be served in the activity in which the creative factor has little significance. The need of the individual who desires outlet for their creative ability should not be neglected. To provide for ill and differently abled as well. Special consideration should be given to the needs of the ill and the differently abled. To serve the specific interests and needs of the people in different neighborhoods. The social, economic and cultural background of the people affects their recreation interest and needs. Next is to afford opportunities for developing good citizenship. Cooperation is trust rather than competition. All the activities are based on the opportunities afforded for leadership and service. Through this, the people should learn by experience the values of cooperative effort in service to the community. Next is to utilize fully all existing facilities properly. This indicates both indoor and outdoor facilities. The program should be planned so that the facilities can yield the management returns in enjoyable activities for the largest number of people. Another important factor is to make possible the wisest use of available resources. Unwise or extravagant expenses for special services for a limited number deprives the major city of essential, greatly needed recreation opportunities. Next is to place recreation opportunities within the financial abilities of all. Facilities and activities can render maximum service only if they are frequently essential services which are easily accessible to. Next is to confirm to recognize programs standards. Many national organizations have adopted standard setting for the desirable procedures for the conduct of certain activities. Participants in various events for organizing competition and for personal conduct. Next is to assure safe and healthful conditions for recreation activities. Next point would be to subject to continuous evaluation. Next is to provide opportunities for contact with nature. Last but not the least, to utilize the potential volunteer service of individuals and groups. Persons who have skill in recreation activities, leadership ability and talents of various types should be encouraged to make them available. Recreation agencies. The recreation leader has to consider all the above criteria while planning a recreation program for the target group of individuals, groups or community. He should also consider that the facilities are used to the optimum level and is made available to as many people as possible.